Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guys Mo and Nawara in the Midwest, and we have Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at some game twos here, gentlemen, as there have been those first games in the DSs of the MLB postseason that we are running through with you guys on this show. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. We're going to be coming back to you guys each and every week of this MLB postseason, trying to bring you some of these games, touching on some of these series prices as well as those continue to get updated. So as I mentioned in this one, we're talking about some game twos here. Also want you to head to thelines.com, have plenty of great written content for you guys all fall long as we finish this MLB postseason up, and have our great odds finder tool on there so you can make sure you are shopping those MLB lines to the best of your ability. Jumping into these game two lines, gentlemen, and taking off with the NL, which kicks off, or these game twos are on Wednesday night. Thursday obviously has those AL game twos. So the first one here, we have the Phillies and Zach Wheeler on the mound there, taking on Kyle Wright in Atlanta. We've got plus 120 on the Phillies money line in this one, a total of 7.5 runs there, minus 105 for the over, a little bit more juice there. The Padres, they pitch at 5:37 p.m. on the West Coast late night. For the East Coasters, obviously 8:37 p.m. Pitch there. Darvish and the Pods are in LA again. Clayton Kershaw on the mound for this game two, minus 190. Heavy favorites for the Doyers at home again after they did manage to close things out there in game one. Those AL games, we've also got the Mariners and Luis Castillo on the mound in Houston taking on Framber Valdez, plus 135 for those Mariners after dropping game one. The Guardians and Shane Bieber are back in New York taking on nasty Nestor Cortez, minus 140 for Nestor, and those Yankees at home after they did pick up that game one as well. So let's run things back to that NL, Nate, and kick it off with that Atlanta and Philly series. As we mentioned, we've got minus 140 for Kyle Wright and the Braves at home in this game too. We've also got the Braves with a series price now plus 135 as they are down that one game. Philly minus 165 to win the rest of this series. So kick things off for me, Nate. Anything interest you in those series prices, and definitely talk about this game one for me, or game two rather for me.
Yeah, I'll start by talking about game one and how the Phillies really got fortunate at the end there. Everything you worry about in terms of their terrible bullpen, basically they had a defensive liability and Nick Castellanos make a game-saving grab to avoid that total bullpen meltdown. I think you can definitely look at the series in terms of the Braves coming back to win this thing. They're now plus 135 on the series, minus 135 to at least force a game five. You get the plus 1.5 line. I would fire on both of those. I think the Braves are a better team, as we all know. It's just one game here. Phillies, I give a slight edge in the pitching matchup here, though, in game two, for sure. I mean, Kyle Wright has the talent, though, to turn in a good outing. Phillies are much better against lefties than righties, so I don't think we're going to see a similar implosion here. He was 2-1 with a 2.8 ERA in those meetings with the Phils. Zach Wheeler also matches up well against the Braves, who are better against lefties. But if you just look at how these lineups profile against righties, Braves obviously much better overall. And then the bullpen edge so extreme that I think the Braves will be able to pull this one out. And even if they don't, I mean, Aaron Nola is not a guy that I necessarily think will shut the door in game three. I think the Braves will hang around one way or another, and that this will be probably a 5-game series, pretty spicy. I don't know if you feel bullish enough about your Bravos winning 3 straight. You could get plus 500 on that, Mo. But I do think that they'll be all right, that they showed signs that they're the better team here, despite Max Fried's rough outing, and that they'll be back to take control of the series at some point.
I think this line is pretty fair for game two. I had Braves minus 120 as a fair price. It is a good spot for the Braves, though, mainly because of the bullpens, like you were saying. So the Braves already had an edge in the pens, especially with David Robertson being out now. But if you look at the way Philadelphia approached game one, they really went heavy on bullpens because Ranger Suarez struggled so much. Frankly, they were very lucky. The Braves only scored 1 run on him, 5 walks in just 3 innings. So definitely very, very fortunate to only allow 1 run with that line. They use a lot of their good relievers. Connor Brogdon, more than 20 pitches. Sir Anthony Dominguez, only 18, but he went 2 innings. Jose Alvarado, Zach Eflin, who I guess is going to be their closer now. It's just like they kind of emptied the clip. So I think they're going to try to ride Wheeler pretty hard today. Where the Braves, when you look at how they did it, they let their lesser arms soak up the innings in hopes that the offense would bring it back, which is what happened, obviously. Colin McHugh is probably the only pretty good reliever. I guess Dylan Lee had a decent season too. But yeah, the Braves basically saved all their good arms. So I would say what that means to me is I'd be watching to try to get the Braves live in this game. Try to see basically if they drive up Zach Wheeler's pitch count. Whether they're ahead or behind, I think it's going to be a good situation to bet the Braves live if Zach Wheeler looks like he's not going to be able to go 7.
I mean, if you told the Phillies fans, though, that they'd be up 1-0 and then they'd have the pitching edge in game 2, I think they would take it for sure. And I mean, we've been talking Phillies since, before the postseason started as the team that, at least with the juice and then what the momentum they had riding into this postseason, the familiarity they have with the Braves, it does seem like this game is a lot close. This series, rather, is at least a lot closer to even. Obviously, the Phillies now favored with that one game lead in such a short series. But tonight is such a pivotal game for the Bravos, and that bullpen I expect to be much better than Phillies. So let's move on to the other NL game, gentlemen, and those Doyers taking on the Padres again in a pitching matchup that I think we're all pretty excited for. Yu Darvish on the mound for those Padres after completely dominating my Mets. And now we've got Clayton Kershaw, who seems to be a revitalized pitcher in the playoffs, at least after last season, sort of shedding some of that stigma that he had following him around for the first part of for most of his career. At this point, a pretty long and tenuous career. So in this one, we've got a couple of different angles to look at. Minus 190 for Kershaw, plus 160 for Yu and the Pods on that money line. A total of 7 runs with 2 guys who are very familiar with their opposition and both actually pitch very well against their division foe. So I'm wondering, Mo, if you want to kick us off here, what are you looking at with a minus 190 money line for the Doyers in game 2 here?
Another one that I think is like pretty close to fair. I'm a little bit interested in the Padres, but I would need to get like up to probably plus 170 here. So we'll see if Big Dodgers money hits like it did in game 1. That one moved like 25 cents, I think. As far as this one goes, a lot of the same problems I talked about before game 1. Once again, facing a good lefty. Kershaw still a borderline elite pitcher, projected around a 3.2 ERA. He's definitely better than Yu Darvish. That being said, Darvish looked amazing in that Mets game. I mean, I have to say, like, I was watching that game and his slider was absolutely unbelievable. And if he comes out looking like that early on, maybe this is another live betting spot where you just fire on the Pods in the under because, man, yeah, if he brings that sort of stuff, they're going to have a shot here. It's interesting because Kershaw is so slider heavy, 43% sliders, but the Padres do hit sliders pretty well. So it's like going to be, how does that interact with their kind of weakness against lefties? They were 6th this year against sliders. It's kind of similar to the Braves game too, in a spot here where I think the Dodgers, they rode their bullpen pretty hard. Evan Phillips, 26 pitches. Alex Vesia, 19. But they're pretty deep, just like not with that great of pitchers. Padres got some of their lesser bullpen arms to throw pretty big workloads as well. So I guess nothing for me right now, but if Darvish is looking good, I'll be maybe interested in the Padres live, or if a bunch of Dodgers team hits the market, I might fire Padres again.
Yeah, I'm not going to expect a lot of offense but off these starters here. I think, Kershaw well rested at this point, which might have something to do with his postseason struggles in the past. I think he'll be just fine. Good numbers against the Pods, who are obviously much more dangerous against righties. And even some of their righties, you look at their career splits against Kershaw. I mean, like Will Myers, 8 for 49 with 16 Ks. Brandon Drury, not very good either. Those are the guys you would expect to have the platoon advantage. So I like an under in the first half here, under 3.5 at even money. I don't mind taking the Pods. It's about the same for the money line first half versus to win this game, because I think Darvish will continue to show that great stuff he has throughout September, where he's just been elite in high leverage, 96% strand rate. in that month, and we saw against the Mets how that slider's biting. His prop is 5.5 strikeouts with plus money on the over there. I think for him to have success, he's going to have to strike out quite a few guys. So I would take the over on that if you're getting plus odds. And like I said, yeah, I don't think there's going to be a ton of runs scored here. I also would look at the Dodgers under 4 runs for the game, as long as you have some confidence in that Padres bullpen to follow Darvish.
Either way, it should be a very good pitching matchup in this game too. Doyers and Padres. We'll see what happens in this NL action, as that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you liked and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us this MLB postseason. And until we see you next, happy betting. Stop that, right?